Hello, welcome to Dungeon Mastering is Easy. This is the show that shows that anyone could be a dungeon master. Welcome, my name is Vahid. I am the host of the show. And today we are joined by Logan Laidlaw. Logan is the producer of the popular Dungeons & Dragons channel Nat19. Not only is he a very entertaining dungeon master, he's also a very successful world builder. He has launched Kickstarters, written the content, that has attracted hundreds of thousands of dollars from thousands of backers all over the world. It is so good to have you with us, Logan.
Oh, so good to be here. I always love to talk shop about D&D. Heck, and TTRPGs in general.
Yeah. And because of Logan's expertise around homebrewing, what we're going to be talking about today is homebrewing monsters, which is something I love doing as well. And I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the theme.
Yeah. No, again, homebrewing monsters is, I think, the first natural escalation that most people really take into trying to make worlds their own. Right up there with dungeons and map making, but like making your own monsters is the first thing that you can really do to engage parties, because if you play D&D long enough, especially, people start to be like, oh, it's a eye stalk monster, it's floating, I know what it's going to do, it's going to fire its eye beams, I know how it is. It's hard to get, especially if you have other DMs at your table, it's hard to get them out of their own way and be like, all right, stop thinking about the stat block you have memorized in your head. So GMs that step into homebrewing stuff can perpetually have that "what does this do?" factor at their table, which is the key thing that makes it fun, and then is it's a bit of a floodgate into doing silly, crazy, personalized things as you advance as a GM. So I'm excited to talk about my journey on it and also find out your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, so let's dive right in. Okay, Dungeon Masters wanting to homebrew some monsters. First of all, I want to say your point about creating things so that experienced players, and especially Dungeon Masters, have something new to come across is definitely, there's definitely value in it. I've had plenty of campaigns where someone says, hey guys, we just need to hit it with acid or fire. I'm pretty sure this is a troll. Right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right? Trolls are like maybe the best example of that. Absolutely.
You know, and then it's all of a sudden, these characters who probably is depending upon your world and how common trolls are. Yeah. Is that common knowledge or isn't it common knowledge? If it isn't common knowledge, it feels kind of like it's cheating.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because it also helps to get out of the meta way of like some players being like, well, it's a troll, it's a common monster. It's like, well, if you're a farmer from backwoods, who knows where, your character might not necessarily know any monsters. Like, what is it? There's a statistic, and this is a weird digression immediately, sorry. In universe, there's a statistic that most people in rural areas never leave a 10-mile square surrounding where they live, and that was especially true back in like medieval or pre-industrialized times that fantasy tends to replicate. So this idea of like, I live in a fantasy world though, I should know that the troll needs to be set on fire, is like, you've probably been all of 8 places in your life. Why would you necessarily know that? But then you get into this thing where then you also as a player have to be like, okay, I guess I'll go through the rigmarole of how do I naturally figure out this thing I already know? Yeah. How do I gotta kill it, let it be on the ground, let it get up, and then be like, oh, no, what is it doing? And then fire somehow. But yeah, if you are homebrewing creatures, a good example, I feel like a side example of that is just take a troll and make a creature that functions exactly like a troll, but rebrand it, take its stat block, make something that does that with ice. Like, obviously make the flavor work, make it like a slime monster or something. Like you have to freeze its body so that it can't like recongeal into what it is. It's a good way to be like, what is this? You naturally reinvest that sense of discovery where they have to figure out what to do with it. That's like the tip of the iceberg for homebrewing, I think, is those specific cases. Do you have any specific thoughts on that?
I think that example that you've given is perfect. Like, I think that's the entry point, right, for homebrewing monsters, where it's almost like you're reskinning their abilities.
Yeah.
You're just giving their abilities a different flavor, a different resistance. Okay, they're trolls, but it's not fire, it's necromantic damage.
Yep.
Right? Okay. This is an infernal, you're seeing a demon or a devil in front of you. You describe it as looking not exactly like a troll, But it is actually stat-wise exactly a troll.
Yeah.
Unless it takes radiant energy, for example.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You've changed all of two things. You've changed that it's a fiend now, if you want to, and it takes radiant damage to keep it down. And just those simple changes move it away from the iconography of a troll and make it something your party has to rediscover. Even if a player looks at it and like, I think I know what the GM's doing, it introduces uncertainty. And that uncertainty is where the fun is, because it's still a question to answer. That's absolutely 100% like one of the funnest things you can do, especially to a table that's played for a while. And for tables that haven't played for a while, it's still just a new monster. So there's nothing lost doing it.
Yeah. Do you have examples where you've kind of reskinned or like just swapped out abilities kind of in a similar way that's fooled or made things fresh for characters?
I've always been a big fan of taking the modus operandi of one type of creature and putting it onto another. For example, take a dragon, make it an elemental, just call it a big like dragon-shaped or esque elemental creature, and basically be like, you're fighting a dragon, it is an elemental, all its damage is switched to whatever elemental type you're using just for flavor, for fun, and instead of wings, like it's an earth elemental dragon-shaped thing, it has a burrow speed. Like just though basically the two changes, or three changes, damage type, creature type, and then a speed change from fly to burrow. Burrow or earth glide specific, like the no hole left type, completely changes the creature immediately. And you haven't done much. You've really just like decided to switch out 2 or 3 abilities, and it changes the entire, like the optics of an encounter entirely.
Yeah, and then people are going, oh no! It's not a black dragon, it's not a green dragon, it's not red. Right? I don't know what this thing is, guys! Freak out!
Just a thing made of mineral that's gliding through the earth and is vaguely serpentine, so you get like the theatrics of a dragon fight, but you have your own new thing, and you can name it some grand cool name that's some combination of like Italian and Latin, and be like, go ahead, sound it out, which is my favorite thing to do. No, that kind of thing I think is most common, but I've been making my own bestiaries for long enough that I'm pretty from scratch these days.
I think those reskinning examples that you've covered, I think that's great. And I think that gives plenty of inspiration. It shows how in just a couple of like minute or two of thinking, you can create what feels for your players like an entirely new monster.
Yeah, absolutely. We like to think every monster is hyper unique. But sometimes all you need to do is change a damage type and a creature type, and it might as well be a new creature.
Yeah, and describe it as a little bit different, and it's all good.
Sometimes DMing's easy.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so now let's go into things where you're really starting from scratch. What are because you've made a whole book of unique monsters.
I make a lot of my own stuff. A subtle plug, Lyra's Guide to Risk and Reward. It's a bestiary and treasure. You can get it on Drive-Thru-RPG. I think it has something like 200 to 300 creatures in it. If you're looking to make stuff from scratch, the first thing to do is in the Dungeon Master's Guide, there is a guide to making your own creatures. Read it, understand it, read where it's coming from. There's a table specifically that gives ranges for attack modifiers and hit point modifiers, or hit point amounts and whatnot, and it describes how to determine CR. I recommend, as someone who's been doing this for a long time, read that, understand it, have it to reference, and then throw it away, because CR in D&D is kind of useless most of the time when you get past a certain point. Once you understand it, once you just get an idea of like where the numbers tend to sit, the main thing to do as a GM is if you want to create like a CR 20 creature, like a tier 3 capstone boss monster for your level 12 campaign, let's say, just start with pulling up a bunch of other CR 19 to 21 creatures from both the DMG and other content you like, and just look at the ranges on them. The best thing you can do as a GM, as a game creator in general, for anything, is to just study available material that works. Even if you're going to make totally original stuff, you don't need to break the mold with everything you do. So maybe you just take the adult red dragon stat block and you're like, I am looking to make a spherical floating slime monster, like aspect of a deity. Nothing like a red dragon, but there's no reason you can't pull numbers from a red dragon to know what range you're dealing with.
Yeah, that's right.
The main thing for people that are starting to make new things, don't make your monsters do everything. Pick like 3 cool things. Most encounters in D&D don't last more than 3 rounds. That's a fact. Action economy is king. So pick like 3 things you want to see a creature do to make their point, and codify those as traits or as abilities. Specifically, and I know a lot of people give this, if you're making creatures and it's like a boss monster style creature, think of it in terms of a show. What 3 things, like if you imagine a show where the main characters fight against a monster or a big bad, what are like the 2 or 3 cool things that you remember them doing? Try to build those into it and then statistically figure out how it works. All of them should pop off instantly. I see a lot of people making creatures and they're like, I want to have like an hour-long story. I have like a multi-part abilities. Avoid that. That is stuff you can do with storytelling. You should never have more than like 5 traits in general, although I'm going to segue into a cheat for that. That's going to be a bit self-aggrandizing. Again, remember that most things don't get more than 3 rounds. You don't get to play with your toys very long as a GM. That is just a fact. So it's got to come in, do its thing. If it has to recharge abilities, pretend they're never coming back. Unless you're me. My players hate me recharging stuff because I have absurd luck.
You're always rolling 6s on those D6.
We use Fantasy Grounds, spoiler for later for it, which automatically rolls recharges, and I'm always rolling 6s. They hate me so much because we eternal start, it'll pop off, it'll go, and I'm like, all right, it's start. Oh no. Is what they'll hear from me. Like, well, guess what the dragon's doing, guys? It's rearing back and preparing for a breath weapon.
I just want to touch on the 2 that you've already mentioned.
Yeah.
And dig a little bit deeper into that. Hey, speaking of making custom monsters, we're releasing a new book called You Need More Orcs. It has 60 original, brand new types of orcs. They're fun, they're fierce. There are gladiators, bell ringers, light eaters, annoying gits, disruptors, things you have never seen before. But there's so much more than that. There's things about social structures, cultural practices, how to make orc fortifications, orc encounters, heaps. There's name generators. So head to the video podcast description down below so the moment the book comes out, you can grab a copy. Because you know what? You need more orcs. First is, start off by referencing similar CR, challenge rating monsters to give you ballpark. Yes, 100%. Hit point range, damage per round range.
Yep.
Right? Okay, so if we're looking at, it looks like the range is between kind of 250, around the 250 hit points. That seems, it's around there. If I make a creature that's 150 hit points, well, it's going to get smushed, relative speaking. Or damage per round. All right, let's see. This creature gets, the dragon breath is blah, blah, blah on average. Okay, it can also do 3 claws and a tail swipe. The average damage is blah, blah, blah. That gives you a good range of how much damage per round you want to be dealing and how, base armor class, base hit point. Those basic numbers of how much damage and how tough are like this baseline benchmark, I think is really helpful.
Unfortunately, the game does float around hit points and to hit and damage. You can give them all the cool abilities you want, but ultimately the ebb and flow is going to be determined by those factors. Everything else is flavor.
That's right.
So, it's also worth noting, this is just a general thing I just came to mind. Philosophy of mine is anything over CR10 is a boss monster. Like, there's some exceptions to that, but a lot of GM...
that, yes.
Like, anything that is, like, minion-based can be in there, but a lot of GMs will try to be like, this room of my dungeon has, like a young adult white dragon in it, which is fine. But if you're throwing anything above CR10 out or making anything of it as like, well, this is an elite soldier, this is like the high guard of this country of the big bad, and he has a fleet of this specific hyper powerful thing, don't do that. They'll be too chunky. They have to, anything over CR10 needs to either command a group of creatures or needs to stand on its own.
If you have too many of them, it's just going to bog everything down.
Yeah. Which is another point, if you're homebrewing creatures, and this is just a GM tip in general, unless you're running 1 hit point creatures, avoid mobs ever. Any boss monster should probably have a couple things helping it, because action economy is key in tabletop role-playing games. But the bad guys should generally usually not outnumber the main party. So you should build things around it. Like, there should always, the turns that bad guys take should always be about equal at worst to the amount of player characters going.
Mm-hmm.
If it gets to more, that's where you start feeling like you're playing.
Yeah. Everyone, they're sitting around. Yeah. One of the other things I want to go back on, sorry to interrupt you, is what you talked about, pick 3 cool things and no more than 5 traits. And I think that this is really valuable advice. On the Dice Legenz channel, we have done a number of live streams where we do world building, we make monsters. And what I see that the audience that interacts with me wants to do is they want to put a zillion cool things onto every monster.
Which is understandable.
But the problem is, first of all, as you've said, you can never use them all.
Mm-hmm.
And second, it's actually the cognitive load on a dungeon master is crippling. You actually cannot you can't use them optimally.
Yeah.
Which is why I think even liches are actually really hard to play to their full potential.
They have so many angles to consider.
So many things they can do, right?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Which is why dragons are actually a more effective monster to use than a lich, because their abilities are more straightforward and devastating. You just get them to fly up, zoom in, blast, fly away till they recharge, fly in, blast. I can do that as a dungeon. I can do that as a new dungeon master. Yep. Lich, it's got a zillion abilities. It's really hard. So I think that when you're homebrewing monsters, keep it simple, because otherwise you're not going to be able to use them, and you cognitively can't use them.
Also, from a big part of D&D and big part of my philosophy as a GM and someone who's building monsters so often, and at this point, like Nat 19 is almost like 90% our monsters, 10% existing monsters, is part of the fun of the game is players figuring out creatures, is figuring out their traits and adapting to them. So it's fun for them to be new, but you don't want them to be mysterious. You don't want them to be so heady or foggy or numerous that one turn they're like, oh, okay, so that thing has like ranged attacks have disadvantage because it has like a repelling aura. And then the next turn, it's like, oh, and it can cast shield for no reason. Oh, and it has magic resistance. Like, if you add too many things into a creature, it becomes this like MMO-esque hodgepodge of conditions, as opposed to, okay, the 2 things that we need to know is if you get close to this slime, it engulfs you. If you hit it with a slashing weapon, it splits into 2 of itself. Fun. And if you cast a spell, it has resistance. Like, that's enough for you to trial and error and remember and be like, let's work around those things. Yeah. But if it's those, and it seems to regenerate, and you need to hit it with adamantine, and it burrows. Like, if you have too many things, it starts to be just a checklist, and it gets hard to engage with. So when creating creatures, as much as a GM, it's hard to say this, because when you're making something, you want it to be cool and like hard to beat and whatnot. You're ultimately making a combat puzzle that your players should be solving. So anything of a high CR especially, you should be making it with the idea in mind that your players should have fun figuring out and defeating it. You shouldn't be making it a wall that says no every time there's a solution. So resist the urge to make a creature that's like, well, yeah, I mean, it's got swim speed and it's got like low base movement speed because it's a fish, but it has an ability that when it moves onto land, it can move or it can switch into bipedal mode. It's like, that's neat. It's cool. But if your party is like, let's trap this thing in the water and fight it, and then suddenly it's like, I grow legs. It's kind of takes away from it, you know?
I love that take that you've just mentioned, that an engaging combat is basically a puzzle of a kind. You know, and it is not only from a strategic point of view of how can we work together to overcome the hit points, but also if it's a new creature they haven't come across, there's a bit of a puzzle of what abilities it has, how to best tackle it, but not a wall of nope. There needs to be some quick feedback for them. Oh, guys, you know, it looks like radiant damage does extra damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And avoid randomness. Specifically on the Tothi, I've seen GMs do this, and it's like a neat idea, but it's very video gamey. Some people also tend to like making abilities that like once you figure it out, it switches. For example, it's weak to like 4 elements, but only one at a time. So when you
that's
hit it with
impossible.
Radiant, when you hit it with Radiant, it switches to one of the other 4, so you got to test them. That stuff sounds cool. That's a video game. That's not a TTRPG. So like avoid things that require more than an action of upkeep to interact with, because again, most combats only last about 3 rounds until say like end game, and your players are only going to get like 3 times a round in a combat to really try anything.
Yeah.
So you want at least one of those to feel like a big cool thing they get to do.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem.
But
yeah, awesome. Hey, this has been really interesting. Just to kind of summarize, starting stuff for not only new dungeon masters, but any dungeon master. Quick, fast, easy, reskinning.
Yeah, 100%.
Change the appearance, change the type of damage it does, just change a couple of things. All of a sudden, you got a new monster. No one's going to know what it is. Everyone's going to have fun exploring and trying to figure out the puzzle.
Yep. Next
level, when creating your own ones, start to think of benchmarks with other CR monsters, using read the section in the Dungeon Master's Guide of creating monsters as you're like, just to get started, and then go off on your own using benchmarks of the relative CRs for those big important things of damage, AC, hit points. Choose, 3 cool things, maybe total maximum 5 traits. You've said anything over CR10 is a boss, and consider that when you're homebrewing, you're actually creating a puzzle that the players will uncover. So don't make it an impenetrable puzzle. Yep. Awesome. Logan, those are incredible points that you packed in so fast. Amazing.
Oh, I'm glad. I feel like I have so much more I could say. I brain rot about this stuff, though, so...
You know what? You got so much experience. I think what we do is we're going to, maybe we schedule in the future a part 2 for the, advanced mode.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to finish off our episode with it's not really a challenge, but it's one of our regular segments called Tools of the Trade, where we discuss what kind of tools, what kind of things do you use to run your games?
Cool.
So, what do you use? What do you do?
All right. Well, for running our games strictly, I use OBS to stream, like most people. Some people use Streamlabs, whatever. I'm assuming that you've got get the video out to people. You got that. We're actually affiliated with Fantasy Grounds, which is a very useful tool. We have been using it for a long, long time, since classic days, and it's a really good VTT. It's also... not that I don't get anything for saying this, but it also recently went license free. So Fantasy Grounds is free now. You have to still buy the books and modules and content, but they did away with their licenses. So you can now just pick it up and anybody can run it and anybody can be the GM in it. It has a good 3D camera mode for online stuff. And once you get used to the syntax of how to work in it, which is something you have to do for any VTT, I find it really good. Beyond that,
what do you do? Sorry if you don't mind me interrupting.
Yeah.
In terms of keeping track of notes for your campaign and your stories, what tools do you use for that?
Fantasy Grounds has individual story and note sections in it that I tend to write stuff in. Though usually, Google Docs it's a boring answer, but usually I make all my preliminary notes for things in Google Docs. Making use of its tabs function for different stuff, and then I'll transfer it into there. But again, Fantasy Grounds has collapsible story, note, and encounter and dungeon functions that you can use to keep track of information in different ways. So I'm sort of all in on Fantasy Grounds. It's
awesome.
I want to learn Foundry. I've heard really good things about Foundry, but I've been using FG for so long that I'm sort of trapped.
Cool. Hey, Logan, thanks so much for joining us. It's been really helpful. I'm sure that all of us have gained some really fun and easy insights and tips on making homebrewed monsters. It was super cool. Tell us where people can find you. And about this project you got coming up.
You can find Nat19 on Twitch at twitch.tv/Nat19official. You can find me on Twitter/X at The Azure Crow, or just search for Logan Laidlaw. You can find our content on DriveThruRPG right now by searching Logan Laidlaw on DriveThruRPG. And you can find our website at nat19show.com. 19 is always just the number, not spelled. But when this goes up, we're running a backer kit campaign right now. It's like a Kickstarter, but it's on backer kit, which a link should be in the description below.
Yeah, video and podcast description. Yep.
Over 2025, we've made 3 splash books that are connected to our setting that use like the rules that we make, which we call 5.19, which are compatible with basic 5e, just so you know, don't be intimidated. We made a bunch of splash books that together are over 250 pages of new content, and we are running a backer kit to do a print run of those, either 1 or 2 or all 3, and that'll be going until the end of December. And if we hit a certain stretch goal, instead of doing the 3 books, we're also going to combine them into a compendium and then add more content based on the themes of each book. So if you want to get some of the content we made, if you want to get over 250 pages of extra content, monsters, spells, classes, subclasses, etc., and challenges, please check out our backer kit project, which should be running now, and back it for 1, 2, or 3 books.
Wonderful. Thank you, Logan. It's been super fun hanging out with you.
Oh, this has been so fun. That was so fun.
And as I slink away to lick my wounds of a comprehensive defeat, you guys can support Dice Legenz by heading over to our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Dice Legenz. You can follow us for free, guys. You don't have to spend any coin, just follow us for free. But if you really want to support our channel, become a backer, a financial backer on Patreon. There are 3 simple tiers, and we'll give you some extra additional content. Hey guys, it's been really fun hanging out. Get your dice out, get some friends together online or in person. Grab your siblings like Logan's brother did to pull him into the game. Grab your parents, grab your neighbors, whatever. Get dungeon mastering because dungeon mastering is easy. Catch you next time.
Bye.